All right. So today I'm super excited about our topic. So we're going to be talking about self-acceptance. And I called it Turning Towards Self-Acceptance because oftentimes we think that we're going to arrive in this magic place where self-acceptance lives. And it's a journey. And sometimes there's going to be times when we are filled with the ability to love and accept ourselves. And there's other things that might give us some little bumps in the road and we start to question ourselves. But if we have all these tools in our tool belt and the awareness of it, then we can get out of those times where we're doubting ourselves and more into self-acceptance. So first of all, I want to talk about what does self-acceptance even really mean? Well, according to the dictionary, it's basically the act or state of understanding and recognizing one's own abilities and limitations. But I always like to take things a little bit deeper, as many of you know. If you've ever coached with me, you really know. So to me, it's wholeheartedly and without any hesitation, embracing absolutely 100% of who you truly are. A lot of people like to say warts and all. It's looking inside yourself to get that validation instead of calling maybe a mom or a best friend and asking them what they love about you. Not that that's always bad, but self-acceptance, there's the word self in there for a reason. You're really turning inward to look for it. So there are so many different rewards of self-acceptance, and I just wanted to name a few of them here. I absolutely love this picture. This woman is so happy. So some rewards of self-acceptance. When you're able to truly accept yourself as deeply as I mentioned earlier, you have no other way, but your confidence is just going to rise. It's just going to be this automatic side effect of accepting who you truly are. And when you have that self-confidence at your side, you're going to be able to be more vulnerable out in this world. And a beautiful ripple effect of confidence and vulnerability is it gives you this truer sense of authenticity. And it's just beautiful to watch the ripple effect of all of these amazing things come together. It's also a really great launching point for effective self-improvement. What I mean by that is if you're trying to make some changes in your life from a place of lack, per se, you're not going to be as effective. It's not going to be some long-term changes and they're going to take a lot longer. But if you really accept yourself and accept the things in yourself that you want to change, that's where the more meaningful self-improvement can come from. Because you're not doing it because you have to change these things to love yourself. You're doing it because you do love yourself. There's also a real increase of those high vibration emotions. Many of you know what I mean by that. Those feelings of joy and happiness, love, all of those things are going to flow so much more freely to you when you're not bogged down and weighed down by non-acceptance. And then the most beautiful thing of all happens, you're just in the flow of living this most fulfilling life. So I have some pro tips for you along the way. A common side effect of self-acceptance is self-love. So beware. So when we're thinking about what prevents self-acceptance, if all of these really amazing, wonderful things that I just mentioned are true, why on earth wouldn't we want to do more of it? Well, there's some things that we're not even really aware of sometimes that hold us back. Number one would be comparing ourselves to others. That can be a real trap, and it can really suck you dry of all of that motivation that really is there to help you move forward. So when I think of comparing myself to others, I think of this really interesting analogy that I came up with earlier. And it's going out into a forest. If you're out in a forest, you don't look at a tree and think, well, I wonder if that tree is comparing itself to this other tree that is taller and stronger and has more branches on it. They just don't do that. They're just up there reaching for the sky and growing. And I think we need to adopt more of that mentality when we're thinking of how we want to live our lives. Also, another thing that can be holding you back is holding on to regrets. Maybe there's things, we've all had things in our life that we wish we could go back and maybe do differently. So instead of holding on to that old baggage, really feel it and heal it and get beyond it so that you can clear up that energy towards more powerful, meaningful things in your life. Another very common thing is we beat ourselves up, and that kind of sometimes can link back to comparison. We beat ourselves up that we're not in the place that we want to be. Maybe we're not in a place that a friend or a family member is at. We beat ourselves for everything. So really thinking of how can you be more kind to yourself instead of beating yourself up. Show yourself some grace and compassion. The last thing, old programming. We all have stuff that we learned as a child that perhaps doesn't serve us any longer. Perhaps we were told we need to be quiet, or we need to be still, or we need to speak up. We were told, basically, we interpreted all of these messages as we aren't good enough as we truly are. So releasing some of that old programming will really help you towards self-acceptance. And here's another pro tip. Comparing yourself to others is like putting your foot in a bear trap. It is so hard to release, so just don't even step in it to begin with. I really enjoyed this quote. In each moment, you're either practicing self-acceptance or you're judging yourself. So here's another pro tip for you. It's really simple. When you figure out which one of those you feel better in, accepting yourself or judging yourself, and do more of that. I guarantee every time it will be more self-acceptance. So here's some ways to cultivate more self-acceptance. So number one is be flawsome. This came from this great sign that I picked up at the coast a few years back. And the quote is, know your flawsome is a person that knows their flaws and also recognizes they're awesome anyway. So embrace your inner flawsome. Embrace the flaws and the awesome all at the same time. You need to kick perfectionism to the curb. Nobody is perfect. And when we really cling to that perfectionism, it slows us way down. I've been learning a lot about this in the last couple of weeks. Say sweet things to yourself. So many times we have this chatter in the background. Excuse me, I hope none of you can see that. We have this chatter in the background that tells us things like we're not good enough, we didn't say the right thing, all of these things come up. But when we turn that negative and critical voice around and say nice things to ourselves, it can be really incredibly powerful. Number 4, celebrate being you. Throw yourself a one-person party and really embrace what makes you authentic and what makes you unique. It's really something to celebrate. So take time to pause and recognize all of the goodness within yourself. Number 5, love without limits. And this all starts with inside. Don't say, I'll love myself when I lose those 10 pounds or I get this perfect client or any of that. Love yourself regardless. Don't even say, I love myself still. That happened to me the other day. And when I heard myself saying, I love myself still, I realized there was a condition to it. So I eliminated the word still and I said, I love myself. And number 6, have lots of fun. When you're busy having fun in your life, you're not going to be thinking of all the ways that you're imperfect or all of your flaws. You're just out there having a good time. This is one of the things that came to me when I was doing some research about authenticity for my Unapologetically Authentic workshop. And I loved the thought about how self-acceptance really is what leads you to authenticity. You can't have authenticity without self-acceptance, and you actually can't have self-acceptance without authenticity. So they really match beautifully together. So another pro tip for you is true authenticity is what attracts the right people to you. When you can be sincerely yourself, the people that align with that energy are going to be drawn to you. So this takes me to the coaching questions we can talk about today. And of course, coming up with your own is awesome, but here's some ideas to get you started if you need some. What are the areas in your life that self-acceptance flows really freely? Also, where do you lack that self-acceptance and what's holding you back? And then what is the action steps that you would like to take to cultivate more self-acceptance? We could all have more self-acceptance in our life. I want to thank you so much for listening today. Much love to each and every one of you. And if you'd like to get a hold of me, here's some contact information. Thank you so much for listening.